In 867, two English kings marched on York with everything they had left. They believed this battle would decide the fate of their kingdom. By the end of the day, both were dead. Their army was shattered, and the man responsible may never have stood on the battlefield at all. His name was Ivar the Boneless. No one knows why they called him Boneless. Some believed his legs were useless. Others thought the name was symbolic, a reference to cruelty, flexibility, or something lost at birth. What mattered was not how he moved, but what followed him. Wherever Ivar went, kingdoms collapsed. For decades, England had endured Viking raids, fast attacks, burning monasteries, ships vanishing back into the sea. The English had learned to survive that kind of war. Coastal defenses were built, militias were raised, warnings were passed along the shore. England believed it understood the Viking threat. In the year 865, that belief died. A massive Scandinavian force landed in East Anglia. It did not strike immediately. It did not burn churches or flee back to sea. Instead, it made a demand: horses. East Anglia submitted, hoping obedience would buy peace. It did not. With horses beneath them, Viking warriors became faster than any English army could respond to. Coastal defenses meant nothing now. The invaders could strike deep inland, vanish, and return before resistance could form. This was no longer raiding, it was conquest. The army turned north toward Northumbria, a kingdom already tearing itself apart. Two rival kings fought each other for the throne while their borders lay exposed. Ivar saw what others missed. Division was weakness. In 866, the Vikings attacked York, the most important city in the north. Its Roman walls had stood for centuries. They did not save it. The gates were broken. Fighting spilled into the streets. Blood ran between stones that had survived 700 years of empire. By nightfall, York was Viking-held. The following year, the rival kings united in desperation. They marched together on York, believing numbers would save them. They were wrong. The Vikings held the city. The battle was brief and decisive. Both kings were killed. Northumbria ceased to exist as an independent kingdom. Later stories claimed Ivar ordered the execution of one of those kings, Ila, using the blood eagle. Whether the ritual truly happened is uncertain. What mattered was that people believed it did. The story spread across England. Resistance now carried a price far worse than death. Fear did what armies could not. With the north broken, the great heathen army moved south into Mercia, one of England's strongest kingdoms. Ivar did not rush into open battle. He did not need to. While other warlords burned villages for glory, Ivar starved regions into submission. Trade routes were cut. Towns were occupied. Tribute became cheaper than resistance. Kingdoms fell, not in flames, but in silence. What made Ivar dangerous was not brute force, it was patience. Some sources suggest he rarely fought in person. Others claim he was carried or remained behind the lines. But war is not won by strength alone. It is won by pressure, by timing, by making surrender feel inevitable. And Ivar understood something that most warriors did not. Psychological warfare could be more devastating than any blade. When word reached a town that the great heathen army was approaching, leaders faced an impossible calculation. Fight and risk the blood eagle. Submit and keep your land, your title, your life. Most chose survival. That choice, repeated across dozens of settlements, handed Ivar control without ever raising a sword. The Vikings exploited every fracture in English society. Where kingdoms bordered each other, old rivalries festered. Where succession was disputed, pretenders waited. Ivar turned these weaknesses into weapons. He offered alliances to one side, then betrayed them when convenient. He elevated puppet rulers whose power owed to Viking support. The English political landscape was not conquered, it was rewired. Then, winter came. The English waited for the Vikings to leave. They always had before. This time, no ships sailed. The army stayed. Fortified camps were built along rivers and roads. Walls went up. Fields were planted. Supplies were stored. Families arrived. England realized too late that this was not an invasion with an end date. It was colonization. These camps became more than military bases. They became trade centers. Markets formed. Merchants arrived from Scandinavia with goods England had never seen. Local populations, initially hostile, found themselves drawn into economic relationships with the occupiers. Cooperation became profitable. Resistance became expensive. From these strongholds, the Vikings struck again and again. Eastern England fell piece by piece. Local rulers were replaced or reduced to puppets. Land changed hands. Laws changed. Language began to shift. The old order did not collapse in a single moment. It was dismantled, slowly and deliberately. Even the church, England's most powerful institution, found itself powerless. Monasteries that had preserved learning for centuries were emptied. Some monks fled south. Others stayed and negotiated. A few converted to the invaders' gods. The spiritual authority that unified England fractured just as its kingdoms had. At the height of his power, Ivar disappears from English records. No final battle marks his end. No victory song records his death. Irish sources may mention him under another name, ruling elsewhere, but certainty vanishes. One of the most feared leaders of the age simply fades into silence. Some historians believe he returned to Ireland or Scandinavia. Others suggest he died quietly, perhaps of illness, perhaps of old age. For a man who shaped the fate of nations, the lack of a documented death is almost fitting. He existed in the space between myth and history, and that is where he remains. But the consequences of his war remained. Large parts of England fell under Scandinavian control. New borders were drawn, new identities formed. The Danelaw emerged, a vast region where Viking law prevailed over English custom. Towns were renamed, traditions merged. Within a generation, the cultural landscape of Eastern England had fundamentally changed. Even the rise of Alfred the Great came as a response to the devastation Ivar unleashed. Without the great heathen army, there would have been no unified resistance, no legend of survival. Alfred is remembered as England's savior, but he was only necessary because of what Ivar destroyed. The England that eventually reunified was not the same England that existed before 865. It was rebuilt from the ruins Ivar left behind. Ivar the Boneless did not conquer England by swinging an axe. He conquered it by understanding fear, movement, and inevitability. He proved that kingdoms could be destroyed without being erased, that victory could come through patience as much as bloodshed. Other Viking leaders are remembered for their battles. Ivar is remembered for what came after: the settlements, the transformation, the permanent reshaping of a land. He did not just raid England, he redefined it. He left no tomb, no final stand, no clear ending, only a transformed land and a question that still refuses to fade. Could the man who broke kingdoms even walk? Perhaps that question itself is the answer. Whether Ivar walked or was carried, whether his condition was physical or symbolic, became irrelevant. What mattered was what he accomplished despite it, or perhaps because of it. A leader who could not fight in traditional ways learned to fight in every other way possible, and in doing so, he changed warfare itself.